On the night of February 14, something strange happens. For that is the night the red god comes to feed. When the moon is full and watchful above the forest, a fair maiden is taken as a sacrifice to redeem the village. Long ago, before your grandmother's grandmother first drew breath, before the wells were dug and before the first crops were sown, before men knew how to speak, a red shadow fell upon the mountain at the edge of the forest. No one alive remembers a time before him, the elders say. He was taller than any man, his skin as red as crimson, his body broad and terrible, and from the sides of his head grew horns. His beard was long and white, and his eyes glowed gold with an ancient and restless hunger. When he first walked into their lands, crops withered, drought came, the women miscarried, the goats died. When he lingered near their river, the waters dried up, and when he roared, the ground shook. Fear spread through the land, and in despair, the elders made a decision that would change everything. Each year, on the 14th night of the second month, would offer him their most beautiful maiden, dressed in red and white, tied to the sacred stakes so that he would feed. Afterwards, the rains returned, the crops swelled, the wombs opened, and for another year, the red god would leave them in peace. No one knew what he did to the maidens, but no maiden ever returned, until the year they chose Kiara. Before we continue, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and hit the like button if you're enjoying this story. The drums began loudly as they tied her wrist to the stakes. Smoke from the torches curled upward and clung to the air. Kiara stood, bound beneath the moon, her red and white garments catching the pale light. The ropes were tight against her skin, but she did not struggle and she did not scream. Then the forest went quiet. A moment later, the sound came, heavy footsteps pressing into earth, and then he emerged, the red god, tall and mighty. The villagers fell to their knees, foreheads pressed to the earth, bodies trembling. He stepped closer to Kiara, his golden eyes scanning her. Kiara did not close her eyes. She did not plead. She simply looked back at him, steady and unflinching. Instead of striking her down as he did for the others before her, the red god reached forward and wrapped one enormous hand around the ropes binding her wrists. He lifted her easily, as though she weighed nothing at all, turned his back on the villagers, and disappeared into the mountains. The red god carried Kiara through the forest, past the misted river, until the mountain rose before them like the wall of some ancient world. He did not speak. He did not glance at her again. When he reached the mouth of the cavern hollowed into stone, he set her down gently. Then he retreated to the shadows of the cave entrance. Kiara just stood there. The cave was vast, lit faintly by the moon slipping through an opening high above. Bones lay along one side, pale reminders of the sacrifices that had come before her. She saw them, and something in her tightened, but still she did not scream. When dawn came, he left the cave without a word. Kiara thought that was the end, that he would return to finish what he had always done. But he came back before nightfall, carrying fruit gathered from somewhere beyond the mountain's ridge. He placed them near her and retreated again to the cave's entrance, sitting there like a silent guard. Days passed. He did not touch her. He did not harm her. He watched her, yes, but not as a predator watches prey. There was something restrained in his stillness, something almost human behind the monstrous gold of his eyes. On the third night, Kiara finally asked, "Why am I still alive?" The red god did not answer at first. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded like a low growl, carrying a weight that pressed against the walls.
I was not always this way.
The cave seemed to hold its breath as he told her of the sky, of a time before blood and bone. He had once walked among clouds of gold and light in the company of a presence vast beyond imagining. He had known paradise, where joy was complete, but that was until he fell in love with the humans.
Before we continue, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and hit the like button if you're enjoying this story.
That was my only sin.
That was my only sin, he said, to mingle with humans, to favor them, to love them. The heavens would not allow it. The high God cast me down, stripped my beauty, twisted my form, stained my flesh crimson, and said I would remain a terror to all who walked the earth, alone, until one unmoved by fear should love me. And no one ever could, he added, his golden eyes lowering to the floor. I was cursed to hunger, to rage, to endure eternity alone. I became a terror to humans. I became the Red God. Kiara studied him in the dim light, no longer seeing a monster. Finally, she asked softly,
"What is your name?"
He hesitated, as though it had not been spoken in centuries, as though saying it might undo him entirely. Azael, he said.
My name is Azael.
Days after he told her his backstory, something changed between them. Kiara no longer saw only the Red God. She saw Azael. 3 months passed on the mountain, and for Azael, they were the first 3 months of peace in 1,000 years. For Kiara, it was the time she learned that a monster is often just a man wearing his scars on the outside. They lived together in a strange, quiet peace. Azael provided for her. Every morning, he would return from the deeper parts of the mountain with fresh fruit, honeycomb, and clean water. He would set them down gently and watch her eat, his golden eyes no longer restless, but calm. He told her stories of what the sky looked like from above the clouds, how light once clung to him like a garment, how music in the heavens did not come from instruments but from beings themselves. Kiara listened, and when she spoke, he listened too. One evening, rain struck the mountain without warning. The cave grew cold and wind swept inward, carrying mist. Kiara wrapped her arms around herself, and though she tried to hide it, she shivered. Azael noticed immediately. Without a word, he shifted his massive body to block the wind from reaching her. You are very kind, Kiara said with a small smile. Azael smiled back. That night, as thunder rolled across the valley, she moved closer to the warmth of him and rested on his enormous hand. His hands were warm and protective. After that night, the distance between them changed. They began to sit closer during the evenings. Once, she laughed when he attempted what he thought was a human smile. The sound of her laughter seemed to soften him, the softness he has once forgotten how to feel. One night, when the moon hung low, Kiara found him asleep near the cave entrance, his breathing slow, his massive body still as stone. She stepped closer, unsure whether the moment would change anything.
Azael, look at me.
He slowly opened his golden eyes, confusion flickering within them. Then, without hesitation, she leaned forward and pressed her lips gently against his head. What happened next was slow but sudden. Is love enough to break a celestial curse? Like and comment.
The moment Kiara's lips touched his skin, Azael's body arched as a force tore through him. Cracks of blazing gold split across his crimson flesh, racing over his arms, his chest, his horns. Kiara stumbled back as the red glow that had defined him for centuries began to fracture. The horns dissolved first, shattering into embers that vanished before they touched the ground. His massive frame shifted, shrinking and reshaping. Crimson burned away into molten gold, and the hunger in his eyes extinguished, replaced by something vast and radiant. His white hair flowed like a river of silk, and his golden eyes cleared, losing their restless hunger to become mirrors of the sun. He stood tall and beautiful, his massive white wings shedding feathers of pure light. His form was powerful, divine, breathtaking. Kiara's heart had done the impossible. She had loved the unlovable, and in doing so, she had broken the celestial cage.
Kiara.
But the transformation did not stop with him. The light turned toward her. It wrapped around her body, lifting her feet from the cave floor. Her red and white garments shimmered, dissolving into threads of light. Strength surged through her limbs. Her eyes glowed with iridescent light. Her skin glowed softly. She was no longer a mere human, but a goddess, born of love and bravery. In loving a god, Kiara had walked through fire, and the fire had made her divine. Azael stepped toward her slowly, as though afraid this too might be taken from him.
Kiara.
Azael.
The red god was gone. In his place stood a guardian of light, and beside him a goddess born of love and courage. And so the legend remains, spoken in whispers and stories passed down from one generation to the next, the tale of the red god who fell in love with a human. Some say on the night of Valentine, a red and white glow appears on the moon, a sign of their undying love. The end. Or is it?